Hello, all sentient beings, and welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, where we talk about all news, comics, and media related to the... On this episode of Transmissions Alt Mode, we review the classic Beast Wars Season 1 episode, Posession. We anticipate the already mega-successful Cybertronic Spree Kickstarter, and look forward to a new show coming soon that mixes Transformers with Chinese mythology. Today is Friday, May 10th, 2019, and this is episode 128 of Transmissions Alt Mode. Welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, the podcast that's found another ghost-themed Transformers crossover. I'm your host Charles, aka Big C, and I'm joined by the excellent Transmissions team. Jeremy, aka Yakko.
Hey, how you doing?
And Daryl, the Cybertronian Beast.
I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Let's talk Transformers.
Well, you might be afraid of this one.
I doubt it.
All right. We are back again to talk Transformers comics and media. As always, we start off by thanking our Donatreons, you beautiful people who give us money on Patreon and PayPal to help keep the show going. And we welcome a new member to the ranks, our newest Patreon, Brad, who just signed up this week. Thank you, Brad, for your contribution, and thank you for breaking our long drought in 2019. So we appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. He is our newest favorite person.
Number one, Brad.
Well, we do have another Brad.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a Brad that's local to me that, might take offense to that.
Well, he's Toy Brad.
As always, Brad gets all the perks and rights that a Donatreon for Transmissions gets, including access to the show live, so you can listen on Discord, access to our Donatreon-only Discord channel, automatic entry into our monthly Toy Hacks contest, and any advanced shows we get early, and some monthly, or I guess, biannually goodies we send out when we get the chance. Lots of good stuff. You can also, if you are not a Donatreon, you can also help us out by going to our TeePublic store and buying some merchandise. If you go to transmissionspodcast.com/shop, that's where you can get that and everything. You can get everything from TeePublic through our link, and that gives us a little bonus. You can also check out our friend of the show store, K-Girl. She did all the art for our logo, or Transmissions logo, and she's done lots of art for us in the past as well. One of our favorite people, and you can go to her store on TeePublic. That's at teepublic.com/user/superstark, and she's got some cool designs there too. All right, so let's talk about Transformers comics and media, and starting off with some comics news. All right, well, we've got a new exclusive cover that's been announced and shown off. This is for Transformers number 6. This will be coming in, I guess, another month or so. This cover is specially for the Greater Austin Comic-Con convention. So this is in Austin, Texas. This is going to be held June 14th and 15th in Austin. This cover is also commemorating the Cybertronic Spree. It is, the cover image is featuring the band as, Transformers, and one human there, and Spike, and yeah, they're going to be at the Comic-Con as well, the Greater Austin Comic-Con. So this is celebrating their attendance there. So it's a really cool cover. It's also, the art is done by Matt Frank, who actually hasn't done a Transformers IDW cover in about 6 years. So it's his return to Transformers artistry. And also it's colored by our mainstay Josh Perez, who's done a lot of Transformers stuff. So it's a really cool image. And Matt Frank also, you might know him. I think a couple of the notable IDW work he's done is the Trail Cutter Spotlight and the Mars Attacks Transformers crossover. Those two issues were really cool. So his art is really top notch. I wish I was going to Greater Austin Comic-Con so I could pick this up, but probably won't be able to get out there. All right, well, that's all the comics news, but I did want to just have a little roundtable because last weekend was Free Comic Book Day, last Saturday. It was also May 4th, so it was also Star Wars Day, which is, a cool combination. But I was curious how your guys' Free Comic Book Day went. So, Jeremy, how'd it go in your neck of the woods?
Well, it started off with a T-ball with my kid, including an epic meltdown because I forgot his jersey. So the day, it couldn't get worse. But after T-ball, we went over to Westfield Comics, who's my store here in Madison. And even though we got there probably about an hour after they opened, the line was still pretty long out the window or out the door. And it was moving briskly, though. There were some Ghostbuster cosplayers there, so I had to explain the concept of Ghostbusters to a 4-year-old. He, I don't think he really got it. He was like, what does bust mean? I'm like, they're capturing the ghosts. And it's like, were the ghosts bad? Most of them. So, yeah, it was fun. They had, I showed off after we got off on trips to the store this week, but I got a sketch card. They always do this blind sketch thing to benefit Hero Initiative, which supports like comic artists that are having like I think medical needs or the retirement plan in comics isn't really the best. So it's I think to provide help for people that are in the industry that need help. So I bought a blind sketch card that the one I got was for a game that I was not familiar with, and they had 2 cards that if you didn't like what you got, you could swap out for. And I swapped it out for this really good sketch of Supergirl by the artist is Jeff Moy, who I think is a local here in Madison. But I'll tweet it out so people can see it. But it's a really nice, looks like a pencil sketch of Supergirl. They had other stuff. They had, I think, 4 artists there. I didn't get all their names. But one of the artists I know works for, like, Raven. Is it Raven Software? They're a video game publisher. They're a local here. And then they have the full, gamut of comic books. I picked up, let's see, we were limited to 5 apiece. I tried to point my kid at a bunch of the more kid appropriate ones. So like you got the Casper, the Friendly Ghost one. There was a one that says like Big Bad Pizza Battle. That's by Scholastic. I don't know what any of those are about. There was what's this other one? Dear Justice League that I think it's the DC Zoom thing. So I think it's for a little bit older kids, but I think it's fine for him. It's kind of a kiddie Justice League thing. And then I picked up things like Star Wars Adventures. I got the Ninja Turtle one and Spider-Man. I think I got the Avengers one too. So yeah, so pretty good. Unfortunately, my book, some of them have stamps, some of them have stickers. Both methods suck, but what are you going to do? And then after Free Comic Book Day, we went to our local children's museum for some Star Wars Day stuff. They had like scavenger hunts for the kids. There was some people that had an R2-D2, and like the guy with the remote is hidden, so the kids are actually interacting with R2-D2, and it was really cute. They had a whole, like their party room was all set up with people from a local Lego users group that had like these amazing, Star Wars Lego things from, through the years. So it was a fun day. Having both on the same day is always a lot of fun.
Cool. All right, Daryl, what about you?
Well, my day is spent like it always has been for the last little while, and I volunteer at my store, which is Heroes Comics in London, Ontario here, and they do Free Comic Book Day pretty big. So the day unfortunately could have been a little better. it was like a misty rain in the morning, which was not pleasant to be setting up for it. We also had we have construction in front of the store right now, and that really hinders people lining up in front of the store. So the call was made to do everything in the back parking lot. So it would be outside, and everything leading up to it, the weather forecast leading up to it said that the weather was going to be really nice on Saturday. Well, we get there and it's overcast, and we got this misty rain. When we're like, oh, the rain should be done by 9 a.m. It lasted until like 12:30. But we had tents, we had tarps, and we kept the books fairly dry. Plus the speed that people were taking them, they weren't really getting wet. So, but yeah, it definitely dried up. And then it got a little warmer in the afternoon, but the morning was a bit miserable. I got there to start helping out around 7:30 in the morning, and I left around 6. So it was a long day for me. But my daughter, she came and helped out. It's a second year, maybe even the third year for her to help out, and she really enjoys it. She likes helping people put stuff in their bags at the end of the line, and telling people, where the other stores are that they can go to kind of get more comics for free, and that kind of thing. She really enjoys that. But I really had a good time with it. It was really fun. I picked up a couple books. I wasn't really looking at any of the books particularly this year. There was a Spider-Man book I grabbed. There was a Spawn book I grabbed, Avengers. And I think that might have been it. There's a couple other. I think I might have grabbed the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle one. But we'll see. I didn't grab much. I just really enjoy doing the volunteering there. It's nice to help out and see what everyone else is doing. The store does a food drive now, a canned food drive, along with the free comic book day, so they combine it. They gave away 5 books from their selection of books, so they include past free comic book day books that they have left over. There's something called Halloween Comic Fest as well that does like a free comic book day kind of thing, so they produce some books. So there's some leftovers of those that are kicking around, and then they all bring out some back issues that are they aren't selling. So there's stuff from the 90s that'll be kicking around, and they'll put those out to be given away. And those are always kind of fun to see what people pick up. But so you could pick 5 of any books that were available there, but if you brought a canned food, you could get 2 books per can. And one lady came up and she had 80 books. She brought in 40 canned, non-perishable food items. And she's like, I'm a teacher. I use them in my classroom, and these are amazing. So I was happy. She's like, I was happy to give the food. And all the food goes to the food bank, which I think is a great initiative for the store to do. And people I think making it easier for people to donate food is really the key. They're coming here to get the comics anyway. They're like, oh yeah, well I can bring the food with me, and I'll just give it to somebody there, and they're going to hand me something for it. It's like a trade. They don't feel like they're just giving something away. They feel more like they're trading for it. And I think that's the big part. So, they did really, really well, and I was really happy to be part of it.
Very cool. Well, I guess my shop is, I think we discussed this before. My shop is smaller than your guys' shop. So it's Phantom of the Attic Comics in Monroeville, Pennsylvania. And, it was not very crowded, in Free Comic Book Day. Like I actually went twice because, I went early in the morning, just to pick out the comics I wanted to get. And then I went back later and took my kids. So, and at my shop, they give out 8 comics, so you can pick out any 8 you want. And none of my comics were stamped or stickered. So.
Wow.
Looks like they're moving away from that. So no longer am I getting all the stickered comics. So.
You are still the odd man out since.
Since everyone else is now stickered. Well, I'm happy. I'm happy it's that way.
You're the lucky one.
Yeah. But yeah, I picked up, the Avengers, Spider-Man, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There's also a Hellboy. There's a Stranger Things. I picked those up.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I picked up the Stranger Things as well.
Yeah. And, a couple other indie ones, the Dark Age, which looks like a post-apocalyptic thing, and then this one Ignition, which looks like a superhero book, but not from the big three, more indie publisher. H1. Not familiar with that publisher.
There's so many small publishers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's also a Star Wars preview book that I picked up. So. But yeah, my store also, they sell a bunch of graphic novels on sale during Free Comic Book Day. So they had a bunch of like $10 or $20 big hardbacks and graphic novels on sale.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good for people who want to get into comics but don't know where to start. I think those are nice, kind of, you get a big chunk of issues and a complete story. And then I took my daughter and my nephew went in, and they got to pick up comics. My daughter is 8, so she got a lot of the kiddie comics. She was drifting over to the other ones, like, no, those are not for you. Get the kiddie ones. There was a Descendants one, so she's really into that. That's the Disney Channel show and movie with the kids of the villains from all the Disney movies. And she liked that. And then my nephew, he could get 8, but he only picked up 2 books. So he's in the anime. There was a Pokemon and a My Hero Academia one, and he got those. But it was like, you can get 8, just, try something else you might like. And he's like, nah, I just want these 2. So like, okay, they're free. They're free, right? But that was it. So yeah, it was fun. It's always, it's nice to see the shop getting some more traffic and getting more kids into the shop. That's always good. And it was a good fun day. So yeah. So what do you, so I guess, I'll turn it over to the listeners, and you guys can write in, let us know how your Free Comic Book Day went, and, talk to us on Discord too.
Mm-hmm. All
right. Well, let's move on and get into our classic TV show review. So this week we are doing, so we don't have any new IDW Transformers comics this week, so that's why we're doing a classic TV show review. And the last time we did this, we did Beast Wars, and it seemed like we got some positive feedback that they want to hear more about Beast Wars. So
do they like the show, or do they like torturing Daryl?
I think you like torturing me.
Oh, that's known. And I think IDW likes torturing you. So, until they get back to a book every week, you're stuck.
Yeah. So this week we are doing Beast Wars Season 1, Episode 21, Posession. And I picked this episode because it does have a little bit of a G1 crossover. So I hope that might, help ease Daryl into it a little bit, but I don't know. It sounds like Daryl is still a little skeptical, still a little bit not happy, but we'll get into it. So this episode of Beast Wars originally aired on February 3rd, 1997. It was written by Ian Weir and directed by Owen Hurley. So let's get into the story. In deep space, a disembodied spark floats through the cosmos. It drifts into the vicinity of the planet where the Maximals and Predacons are stranded. And both groups of Cybertronians are having big problems. An energon storm is raging across the planet and causing damage to their bases. On the Maximal ship, their shield has been knocked offline, so Optimus Primal orders the team to store all the weapons and ammo in the lower hold to prevent an explosion from another energon lightning strike. Outside, Rat Trap assesses the damage and delivers bad news and worse news. A section of the ship's hull has been breached by the storm, and the sensors in that section of the perimeter have been knocked offline, leaving them exposed to a potentially undetected Predacon surprise attack. On the Predacon ship, the floating spark finds its way into the ship's computer system, unbeknownst to the Predacons. Megatron orders Waspinator to check the computer's damage report. Waspinator is confused by the screen readout, which he can't decipher. And then, in a flash of light and energy, the spark that infected the ship's computer emerges and enters Waspinator's body, taking control. Megatron calls for Waspinator to report, but when he arrives, his voice sounds different. Waspinator explains he's not Waspinator anymore. He's Air Commander Starscream of the Decepticon Battle Fleet. Black Arachnia points out that Starscream died in the Great War between the Autobots and the Decepticons centuries ago. How is he here now? Starscream explains that yes, his body was destroyed by Unicron while he was defending his leader Galvatron, but somehow his spark survived, drifting through time and space. So Megatron asks the obvious question, what does Starscream want here and now? Starscream humbly asks to serve Megatron as a loyal warrior and help defeat the Maximals once and for all. Megatron is rightly skeptical, but he'll take any advantage he can get in the Beast Wars. Back at the Maximal base, Cheetor is on patrol now that the proximity sensors are down. He notices a very strange insect buzzing around and recognizes it's not natural. It's a Predacon spy drone. He shoots it down, but the Predacons have already gotten all the intel they need. After surveying the damage of the Maximal ship, Starscream formulates a plan. Attack the opposite northeast side while the Maximals are guarding and expecting an attack from the southwest. Starscream's plan works. The Predacons catch the Maximals unawares, and Dinobot is severely wounded in the battle. The Maximals are forced to abandon their base, and the Predacons claim it for their own. Megatron celebrates his strategic victory and sets off to capitalize on it. To ensure the Predacons maintain their strategic advantage, Megatron divides his forces, leaving Waspascream in charge of the Maximal base with Black Arachnia and Scorponok, while he takes the rest back to the Predacon base. But before he leaves, he warns Scorponok to watch Starscream closely and not to let his guard down. Out in the wilderness, the Maximals lick their wounds after their defeat. Dinobot's wounds will repair on their own, but they need to formulate a plan to take back their base. They can't believe that somehow an ancient Decepticon has returned to join the Predacons. But Optimus Primal doesn't know much about Starscream because the Maximal Elders sealed the historical records on him. But Dinobot was a Predacon and has studied Predacon military history. He tells them that Starscream was a notorious bot known for scheming and trying to usurp his commanders at every turn. Optimus Prime sees how they can use Starscream's treacherous nature to their advantage. Back at the Maximal base, Waspascream senses Black Arachnia has something to tell him. She points out that she knows he's been lying about his origins. She read the archives on him, and he was destroyed by Galvatron himself for treason, not by Unicron. Starscream asks why she didn't just expose him to Megatron and be done with him, and she responds that she thought he could make her a better offer. Starscream recognizes a power-hungry kindred spirit and agrees to let her in on his schemes. As they make further plans, Scorponok alerts them that the Maximals are approaching the base. Optimus Primal announces that they've come to surrender. Dinobot is severely injured, and they need access to their ship's cryogenic repair chamber to heal his wounds. Starscream agrees and takes Optimus Primal and Dinobot inside. Dinobot goes in the CR chamber, but they take Optimus Primal prisoner, chaining him up in the hold in the base of the ship, where all the weapons were stored after the Energon storm. Now, with 2 hostages, Starscream orders the Maximals to attack the Predacon base. The Maximals are confused, but Scorponok recognizes Starscream's betrayal. But before he can act, Starscream and Black Arachnia blast him off the Maximal ship into the canyon below. The Maximals appear to have no other choice and follow Starscream's orders. Starscream and Black Arachnia watch on the remote monitor as the Maximals carry out his plan and attack the Predacon ship. But they're surprised when Optimus Primal escapes from the hold below and attacks. He also releases a not wounded at all Dinobot from the CR chamber, and together they drive Starscream and Black Arachnia out of the Maximal ship. Starscream flies off and leaves Black Arachnia to fend for herself. With the base secure, Optimus Primal tries to contact Rhinox and the other Maximals to tell them they're safe, but there's too much interference. He activates his jetpack to fly closer to their position at the Predacon base and make contact. At the Predacon base, the Maximals are pinned down by the ship's guns. They fall back, but Waspascream arrives and orders them to press the attack. Unfortunately for him, Optimus Primal is right behind him, and the Maximals are done taking orders from Starscream. They turn their attack on him, and Optimus Primal delivers a mighty punch to knock him flat on the ground. Inside the Predacon ship, Megatron seethes with anger at Starscream and Black Arachniel's betrayal. Outside, Optimus Primal stands over Waspascream and aims his blaster at him. Starscream tries to weasel his way out and sees Black Arachnia behind Primal on a ledge. He begs her to destroy Optimus Primal and they can still rule together, but Black Arachnia has got a betrayal of her own up her sleeve. She aims a blast at a nearby pocket of Energon crystals, right next to Waspascream's head. Starscream realizes he's been betrayed. Waspinator's body is blasted to pieces, exorcising Starscream's spark in the process. Later, the Predacons have gathered up the pieces of Waspinator and put him back together, minus Starscream's ghost. Black Arachnia tells Megatron she was only playing along with Starscream to help expose his betrayal. Megatron doesn't buy it, but he doesn't press the issue for now. Meanwhile, the Maximals return to their ship and set about repairing all the damage. Finally, Starscream's spark is ejected back into the depths of space, and he wails in anguish, vowing he'll be back to take his revenge on the Maximals and the Predacons, even if it takes 1,000 years. And that's the end of the story. So, this was a fun episode just, because I think it has lots of direct references to the old G1 cartoon. So for an older kid, watching this, well, I was in college, so I guess I wasn't a kid, but watching this show, it was nice to just see all the callbacks, on references to the original Transformers. They had a Starscream character model in the show. They had a Unicron character model too, for a brief second. The animation is it's still rough. It is 1997 computer animation. So, you just have to take that for what it is. But, I thought it was a fun episode and, a lot of, just, G1 fan service here. Minor quibbles, of course, Starscream really never worked much with Galvatron. He betrayed Megatron originally, of course, but I think that probably would have been too much to shove into the episode to mention how Megatron became Galvatron later on and all that stuff. So they simplified things here in the story. Also, I guess the voice actor Doug Parker, who's trying to do an approximation of Chris Latta's Starscream, he plays it. It's just a little bit too intense, but I'd say it's a good try. Chris Latta had passed on at this point, so there wasn't really the opportunity to get him back. But the funny thing is that the voice actor Doug Parker, who does Terrorsaur's voice on the show, Terrorsaur is essentially the same character as Starscream. He's kind of a lieutenant who's always trying to betray Megatron, and his voice is even similar, but more toned down than what Starscream was in the show. And it seems funny to me that Terrorsaur doesn't get much lines in this episode. I think they probably didn't want him talking very much because it would have been too close to what Starscream does. So I thought that was interesting. So, Daryl, I'm curious what your take on this episode was.
All right. Well, the animation is like jank. It's absolute garbage. So at the time, if you can put yourself in late 90s, this was decent. I'm trying to remember watching it. I was not in college. I was in high school. You're an old man. So I have to remember my feelings about this episode at the time. I never watched it at the time. But I remember seeing promos because, cartoons had, commercials at the time. But yeah, I don't remember being that overly impressed about it. I feel as though if I was really hard, I wasn't in the fandom during this time, but if I was, I would have been a very stout truck, not monkey guy. Now, as far as the plot goes, it's a decent plot. It's a fun idea. I give Doug Parker a lot of credit. Chris Latta's Starscream voice was like, it's difficult to try and recreate that. So I give this guy a lot of credit. There are a few times where he did a pretty, it sounded pretty good, but most of the time it sounded like an impression, which, it was. I wish that they kind of did what they did with the G1 show and just kind of would show the ghosty image of the G1 model, over top or kind of, behind or near the Waspinator model. They showed it just when he took control of the body, and that was about it. I wish that they'd showed it more just to get that nostalgia kick out of seeing the original model. But, all in all, I don't there were a couple really cheesy lines. I can't remember what they were at the time. I just remember kind of grimacing when they said them. It comes down to the animation. The animation is something that it just doesn't hold me when I rewatch these episodes, this show. And that's basically is the detriment of this old show for me. So yeah, we could do these reviews a whole bunch of times, but, the animation is just going to be really difficult for me every time.
Okay, so you got to review the episodes with your eyes closed from now on.
That's a 10-4.
No, that's fair. I mean, I still think at least I can look past the animation. I mean, it's what they had to deal with at the time. It's primitive, but
But you watched it at the time, right? You watched this as it came out.
Yeah,
right?
I did. Yeah.
So I didn't. I was aware of it, but I didn't watch it. Mm-hmm. I remember playing, I believe it was a PS1 game, or maybe the PS2, but I remember playing that and thinking, this is not great, but it's Transformers. I really wanted to play something Transformers, but, I have no nostalgia for this show because I didn't watch it. So going back to rewatch it is just torturous because it doesn't look good anymore comparatively to anything that's on TV. And that's no fault of its own. They were cutting edge at the time, but that's just the fact of the matter of CGI and improvements. It just doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
It doesn't age as well as just 2D animation.
It doesn't age at all. It doesn't age well at all. Yeah, at all. So yeah, it's something that if we were going to, try and redo it, you really gotta forgive that animation.
Mm-hmm. All right, Jeremy, you've got a little bit of nostalgia for this. So what did you think of this episode?
Well, and I also was in college when this aired, though I didn't watch it then. I got into the Beast era through Beast Machines, and then I went back and watched all the Beast Wars stuff. I really enjoyed the show. I think this was one of the first solid links back to G1 that we had where, because Starscream's Ghost happened in G1. Mm-hmm. It was a thing. So bringing that concept into Beast Wars was a fun idea, especially being so far removed from G1. Yeah, the voice for Starscream wasn't the best. If you listen to Chris Latta and immediately listen to this, you're like, it's a good attempt. But in the late 90s, we didn't have YouTube. You couldn't just quickly bring up a G1 clip, and it was close enough to be like that. That's definitely Starscream. I was always confused as to why it was Waspinator, not Pterosaur, but Waspinator is the series punching boy. It makes sense if you're going to have someone with an indestructible spark, put them in the person that's always getting blown up and putting themselves back together. Rewatching it this time, when I saw the scene where he introduced himself and, described his history as dying because he sacrificed himself for Galvatron, like, he was murdered by Unicron. I'm like, wait, that's not how it happened. And then, when you get to the actual truth revealed later, and you're like, oh yeah, Starscream's just, he's doing what he does and twisting the truth to try to make himself look better. So that was a nice touch too. I mean, they got the character of Starscream down pretty good. So this, I'm not going to comment on the animation. We know what the animation is. That, season 1, they were really still trying to figure things out. The later seasons do get better. But the story itself, I thought, was strong. Voice acting was strong. And I loved when I saw this, I loved the initial G1 links, and then later on in the series, we get even more. So yeah, I thought this was a great episode. And seeing that it's close to the end of season 1, you would expect the episodes to be stronger.
Cool. Yeah. The one thing I have just a minor quibble about is that in the beginning of the episode, when the Predacons first attack the Maximals, Starscream is using Waspinator's body to full effect. Like, he's zipping around the battlefield. He's displaying all his aerial tactical maneuvers and everything. And then at the end of the episode, he's fighting Optimus Primal, and he just stands there and lets Optimus Primal punch him in the face. It's like, you could have moved. I mean, he's supposed to be this great flyer, and he's like, I'll just, float here while you come towards me and then punch me. So I guess he was just stunned.
He was stunned by the arm wind up. the few rotations in the arm. He's like, what is he doing? Oh, he's going to punch me. He's going to cartoon punch me.
But yeah. All right. Well, that is Posession, Season 1, Episode 21 of Beast Wars. And so that's our review. And let's move on to some Transformers media news.
All right. In media news this week, we have a couple new prints available from Prime One Studios. These guys are usually known for doing statues, but we've got some art prints available from them, both by artist Josh Nizzi. The first one is Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime, and it looks pretty decent. And the second one is Dark of the Moon Shockwave. So take a look at those. They are pretty kick-ass. If you are into the movie designs, obviously. Also, we have another Bumblebee movie update from director Travis Knight, an interview from him about bringing Bumblebee to the big screen. They're starting to slow down these Bumblebee movie things, but if you're still looking for some news from Bumblebee movie, take a look at that link. Now we've got something here from out of China that I don't remember talking about before, but apparently this is a update to an earlier story. This is about Transformers Neza, and it's going to debut later this year. And there might be even a global release. So Transformers Neza is currently a China-only release of Transformers kind of property, a new animated series that's going to feature Transformers and the character Neza. Neza is, for the uninitiated, like myself, Neza is a dragon-slaying warrior god. So, it is a young lady, and apparently over the course of her existence, she's taken a few forms, but generally sticks to being a young girl. Anyone out there that is a expert on Neza, even just being able to correct the saying of the name, I will help.
We went over the pronunciation before we recorded, and that's the best we could come up with.
Yeah. So a couple points out of this is Transformers Neza is going to be the finalized title of the animated series, and it's expected around Q3 of 2019. At that point, we may see a global release. but currently it is only planned for China, like I mentioned. Now, we don't know yet if there's going to be any kind of toy related with this, but it is currently sitting as just an animated series.
No, there's a related toy line.
Oh, we have one?
Yeah, it's in that 0.3. That right now it's only China.
Oh, okay,
but
cool.
That might also be global.
Gotcha. All right, cool. All right, well, there you go. As far as the character Neza goes, it's been around for quite a while. It's the second most well-known warrior in Chinese mythology after only Sun Wukong or the Monkey King. So it's a very popular character in Chinese culture. So, if somebody out there knows more about this, feel free to send us a message here, because we are really struggling here to figure this thing out. But if this is going to have some kind of animation, hopefully it does get out of China, because anything is better than nothing. And right now we'll take some really cool stuff. I did see something through one of the message board posts saying that the fact that they're combining Neza with Transformers is likely just to put a cute girl with Transformers. That may just be a fan fantasy or a fan worry, because we do know what happened with Kiss players. So let's hope it doesn't go that far to Kiss players. I can't see that. Jeremy was speculating that it can't go that far because of Chinese pornography laws, but let's hope not. But anywho, Jeremy, Charles, do you guys have any thoughts on this? We really don't know a lot at all. So
yeah, it would be interesting to see.
Yeah, I hope we do get a global release. So I'm curious, just because I don't really have any context for the Chinese mythology. So I'm curious how they're working in Transformers with it. So
yeah,
it's
I'm
really a
wondering
mystery.
About the animation,
yeah,
2D, 3D.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Hey, can't be worse than the Machinima series.
Well, if it's Kiss players, it probably could be. Anyway, moving on. We were surprised to learn this week that the Transformers' very own band, Cybertronic Spree, the cosplay band that dresses up as Transformers characters, they did a Kickstarter. They're working on a project, and they are doing a reimagining, they're covering the Transformers the movie soundtrack. So, where have we seen this before? Oh, yes. Our good friend Jimmers did it. But this is a different thing. This is not changing the tempo or rewriting the songs. It's just covering them. So, the Kickstarter basically met their goal insanely fast. They set a goal of $15,500 Canadian. As of this recording, May the 5th, it is at $87,949, with 25 days left to go. So congratulations, guys. You met your goal. Yeah. So
many of the tiers were already sold out by the time we found out about it.
Oh yeah.
I think it was hours after it went live.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, there's some heavier tiers. Like there's $1,000 tier, which you can get an executive credit on the album and, signed copies of the disc and stuff like that. But that's the biggest one. There's a $500, $150, right? $100. There's no tier here for $5,000 or something like that. No insane tier, but they are still at almost $90,000, which is absolutely ridiculous. I'm so happy for these guys. Yeah. So good for them. And, hopefully they've got a convention coming up. We were just talking about it in, the toy show. So take a look at that and, Or no, we were talking about it earlier on in this show. I get my shows mixed up. But yeah, so if you're interested in this, they did reopen the some of the earlier tiers, so making some more stuff available. And yeah, so if you want to still pledge, go ahead.
You've got about 20 days.
Yep.
And yeah, just it's all gravy at this point. But it looks like it's definitely on track to that this Kickstarter is going to happen. I mean, they've what? It's like almost 10 made almost 10 times their goal. So I think they're not going to have a problem completing this project. I mean, they even said they would have done this already by themselves, but the money will help them, get everything done more quickly and get the album produced. So,
well, and they were like, they have some legit producers that are helping them with this. So that's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, they've hit all their stretch goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do they go ahead and do they put another stretch goal on here? Like, do they put $100,000 stretch goal? Because their biggest stretch goal was $30,000, and they passed that a long time ago. So
yeah, hopefully they will. I mean, there's no reason not to. With 25 days left.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, that's it for media news, guys.
All right. Well, let's move on to some convention news.
All right. A couple things here in convention news. The first one is that TFCon has announced Kazama is going to be coming to the Toronto convention, July 12th through 14th. Kay has done work primarily on the Optimus Prime series with that really gritty look, and we met her in Chicago last year, and a great person, although she is, at least when we met her, she was still not as comfortable in her English speaking, but we could understand what I personally thought was fine. But she will be there, and I'm not sure if it's going to be out by then, but she has also been announced as the artist on Marvel's new Death's Head comic. So I am sure if you ask her for a commission for Death's Head, she would probably be happy to draw it.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing we have is Cybfest Northwest, which is in Kent, Washington, July 27th. This is a one-day convention, and for the first time, they are bringing a voice actor as a guest. They have announced that David Kay is going to be there. I guess this is kind of appropriate since we reviewed Beast Wars here. He was the voice of Megatron in Beast Wars, Beast Machines. He was also in Armada Energon, Cybertron animated. He has been, around the various Transformers series, and he is also currently the is it like announcer or the voiceover on Last Week Tonight on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in the Northwest, make it out to this. Support this up and coming convention and get a chance. I would think at a smaller show like this, you would have a better chance of having a substantial conversation with someone like David Kay than at a bigger show like TFCon.
Yeah.
So go check it out. And that is all of the convention news this week.
All right. Well, let's finish up the show with some feedback. And this week we have a voicemail from friend of the show and Donatreon, Dr. Pants.
Hey guys, Dr. Pants here, just with some feedback for you on episodes 327 and 127. Gotta say, super thrilled to hear Yoshi come back when all four of you are together. It's a great, great show. You all have great chemistry together, leads to some good discussion and some good laughs, particularly the outtakes at the end of 327. Absolutely roaring laughing on my way home listening to that. So good job, guys. When it comes to episode 127, I loved your discussion on issue 4 of Transformers, the reboot we're getting. You brought up a lot of good points, and I kind of get what everybody's saying, that it's not that great right now. I mean, it is really boring. There's not a lot going on, but I think Charles is the one that brought it up, that Brian Ruckley is a novelist. And I look at it this way, that these first four issues feel like the beginning of a big, epic fantasy or sci-fi story that's going on. We've got all these different plot threads going around and all these different characters, all these different settings. So they've got to tie together at some point. And I feel like that's what we're building up to. And hopefully in the next 2 issues, we see something culminate from this. But I've personally been enjoying it. I don't think it's too bad. I really kind of love the world building and all this setup. So we'll just see where it goes. But love the discussion. Loved all the jokes. Look forward to hearing more stuff, guys. Thanks for everything. I'll catch you later.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Pants. Yeah, I mean, I agree that there's lots of good stuff in the Transformers, the new Transformers series. It's just it's missing the story structure and like a single story to hook me, and that's the main problem I have with the book. I mean,
and the pacing.
Yeah, the pacing is. And that's tied to that same problem, is that you have to have a complete story in every book, or at least, a major plot line in every book. And I don't feel like it's doing enough of that. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping it'll, when we get past this first story arc, things will pick up and the pace will improve. And he did, when we interviewed Brian Ruckley, he did say that there were standalone one-shot issues coming up after this first arc. So we'll look forward to that. And yeah, it's always nice when everyone's here on the show. Yoshi. Mm-hmm. Who am I kidding? He's not listening.
Yep.
But, yeah.
He only like pays attention to the trip to the store when he's not there. Just so he can, see if you got his cards.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Well, we love Yoshi, so we just want him to come back as much as he can, but life gets in the way, so not much we can do about that. But his chair is always open for him, so every time he's here, we will welcome him. All right. Well, I guess that'll do it for this episode of Transmissions Alt Mode. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Later.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this episode of Transmissions. But just because this episode is over doesn't mean the Transformers fun has to stop. Join us and other Transformers fans on our Discord chat server by visiting transmissionspodcast.com/discord. If you would like to learn more about how you could support the Transmissions Podcast, just visit transmissionspodcast.com/support. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again next week.